are providing necessities of life to those that you and your bosses refuse to provide.
You guys
breaking
do
his
the
rights.
respect for social
He's
distance.
allowed to
Stand
get...
back from me a little bit. I need 8 feet.
Whoa.
I need 8 feet. Stand back. Okay?
Or what, you're
Stand
gonna
back.
fucking threaten me and abuse me?
Hey, guys,
Do not do
6
that.
feet.
Tell him not
6
to
feet
touch
away.
me.
6 feet away.
In the end of the day, we all have to remember that God is judge of judges.
Yeah.
And in the end of the day, the truth and justice will be served. And he is a judge that does not take any bribes. He knows it all. And he's just.
Celine Gallus here for Rebel News, and I'm seated here today with Pastor Artur Pawlowski to go over his trial that is being held here in Calgary, Alberta. Now, if you are unaware, I would like to make you aware that Pastor Artur Pawlowski is being prosecuted for feeding the homeless one time in 2020 in the middle of the Canadian winter. December, guys. It's very cold. Now, thank you for being here with me today, Pastor Artur Pawlowski. It's really nice to talk with you face to face and not be amongst the court, the crown, and all of the heinous crimes that take place within that, not the ones that get resolved, of course. That's why we're here talking today. Now, on that, I would like to go a little bit more in depth for the viewers and just touch on why you think, in your opinion, that this case in particular, your case, is being dragged on for this long.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for being here because, as you know, because you were there is absolutely no other media outlet that is covering this story, which I believe should be the number one story, at least in the city of Calgary. Why? Because we're not living in a nice Florida or California. We are living, I call it my little Siberia. My grandfather escaped Siberia, so I guess God sent me to Siberia to work here. I like hot weather. We were living in Greece for many years. But I'm here, and as you know, winters are brutal, absolutely brutal. I can't even imagine, and I'm working with the homeless people, saving their lives for the past 23 years. I can't imagine how it feels to stay all night long in minus 40. And sometimes we had minus 50. My record with the team is minus 55, feeding the homeless people. And the lineup was big. Can you imagine when you're sitting in your home and the news media outlets are telling you stay home or you can lose your skin? It's so crazy cold. And yet the homeless people have no choice. So this should be a story. And what is the story? Because many people think that he's just a rebel. He just wants to cause trouble. He's looking for trouble. I even was told a few days ago that I orchestrated all of my arrests. Can you imagine? So it looks like I have politicians in my pocket, chief of police, police officers, AHS. I mean, wow, you're giving me a lot of credits, guys.
Good job. Yeah, really.
So the truth is, I'm not looking for a trouble. I am a man of peace, and I love my peace. I actually love to stay at home and just watch documentaries or history channel with my wife. However, those people, it looks like they just don't want to let me do my job. Recently in the past 2 years, we have heard people telling us, I'm doing my job. I'm just doing my job. Well, if you just doing your job, let me do my job. What is the job of a pastor? Why I do what I do in the first place? Well, because being a Christian is not just a label. It's not just a hat on Sunday, and then I live how I please on Monday. It's a lifestyle. It's everything or nothing. Either you believe in the Bible or you don't. I do believe, and I follow what is there. And one of the things that God is commanding us to do is to feed the poor. So that's what I do. For the past 23 years, I have been taking care of the homeless population. And not just here. I started over 40 street churches in different countries, on different continents. And a big part of our ministry is also working in the native reserves. Many people do not know that. In 2020, I distributed truckloads worth millions of dollars worth of food in reserves that were completely locked and shut down from the outside world because of the crisis. So not covering the story, it tells me everything. it tells me that this story is too positive. It doesn't portray me the way they want the people, you, to see me as a homophobe. Well, I'm not, because I feed the homosexuals for the past 23 years. They're in my lineups. I feed transgenders. I feed Muslims. I feed Christians. I feed Buddhists. I feed black people, believe it or not. Actually, I have people, colored people in our church. I started orphanages in Kenya. I started a medical clinic, churches in Kenya. I work in Barbados, Belize. That doesn't fit the narration, you see, that I am a racist, xenophobe. Can you imagine, listen to my accent, can you imagine me being called a xenophobe, which is actually from the Greek word xenophobe, xenos, which is an outsider, someone that comes from outside of a country. And and they call me those names. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. So them not covering this, it tells me that this is just too positive. People will learn that Kenya's totalitarian regime is actually persecuting someone for doing what? They will have to say it. They will have to say, he is feeding the poor, he's saving lives, and he was saving lives in the middle of the greatest crisis, in the middle of the time when majority of the shelters were shut down. People don't know that. And or greatly restricted. Yeah. During that time, homeless people would come to me all the time and said, I was kicked out from a shelter. I was not allowed to enter a shelter. We know the stories. We know that the capacities were limited. Mm-hmm. So for the Crown to say, oh yeah, there were resources in the city of Calgary, what a bunch of liars. I mean, psychopathic liars. I'm so disgusted by this government. What this government is doing, it's painful. First day, I did not understand why they're dragging their feet. We came to the court and we decided to say, we are agreeing to the statements of facts. I fed the poor. Yes, I did it. There is no disputing this at all. There are pictures, there are videos which I posted. I never took them down. I never, changed.
Tampered,
nothing.
Yeah.
It is. I did it, and I'm still doing it, and I have been doing it for the past 23 years. So we're not disputing this. And yes, I did it during that time. So there is no dispute whatsoever. I did it during that time. Yes, pictures are accurate, videos are accurate. Now let's move to the merits of the case. What is the ticket? Well, the ticket is the health ticket that many people around this beautiful country received. I received this ticket for organizing and participating in an outdoor event, which now the Crown claims that it was a private social gathering. And now they're trying to convince a smart judge, because he sees what's going on, that this was actually exclusive only to Christians. Only Christians allowed.
Christians only event.
Christians only event, and was a private social gathering for the purpose of socializing. And yet, when you watch the videos, when you hear the testimonies of officers, and kudos to the Calgary police. I want to say that because some people think that I hate police. I don't hate police officers. I respect and I love the uniform. I hate corruption. If a police officer is doing his job, I'll be glad. I will be the first one to kudos. Good job, officer. Thank you for serving and protecting us.
For doing your job.
When I see corrupted police officers, lying police officers, then everything in me boils. Why? Because I grew up in communism where the police officers were the gangsters. They were actually the villains. Beating, torturing, punching people, arresting for no reason just because they had a wrong political view, or they said something that they didn't like, or they looked the bad way. So those officers were highly professional. They answered truthfully. They said what they observed, what they saw. And of course, they couldn't deny that this was a public event, because it was. And that's what they observed. Was anyone turned away? No. Did we check if you're a Christian or not? No. I don't care. You can be a Martian. You can literally come from Mars in your green posture. I don't care. And I will still feed you.
Yeah. I just think it's funny. It's like they're trying to make it seem like you're checking their papers when, we got to a point where it very well seemed like they would be checking our papers. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
Yeah.
the hypocrisy is very, it's very laughable to me for sure.
Yeah. And, it is funny. You want to go to a restaurant. Now they kind of loosen the craziness, but I could not go to a restaurant without them checking my papers. And now they want to turn this whole thing around and say, oh yeah, you were probably, of course, there's no proof, there's no testimony because it's a lie. Doesn't exist. So of course, I want everyone to come. Why? I'll read a few scriptures to you, and you be the judge if I'm interpreted the scripture in the right way, or I'm kind of, looking at this in just totally biased my own way. Yeah. I want to follow the Bible, and God, my God is God of mercy. My God is God of justice. My God is God of love. And what is love in the end of the day, if not when you see someone hurting, your love that is in you wants to help that individual. So when I see homeless people, I want to help them. When I see a hungry person, I want to share what I have. I have plenty of food. I want to share it with them. 1 John 3:17 to 18. Here is what it says. But if anyone has the words goods, so in other words, if you have the means, the bread, the money, and sees his brother in need, yet closes his heart against him, how does God's love abide in him? Let us not love in word or talk only, but in deed and in truth. Proverbs 21:13. Whoever closes his ear to the cry of the poor will himself call out and not be answered. Isaiah 58:6-7. Is not this the fast that I choose, to loose the bonds of the wickedness, to undo the straps of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house? When you see the naked, to cover him and not to hide yourself from your own flesh? 1 John 3:17. But if anyone has the words goods and sees his brother in need, yet closes his heart against him, how does God's love abide in him? Let's just focus on that verse. How can you say you're a Christian? How can you say I'm a pastor and I pastor a church, and then I see the need, and especially in the middle of the greatest crisis this country has ever seen, when I've heard the stories of the shelters shut down, like I said before, when I've heard them crying and begging for food, how could I just say, you know what? The mayor says no. So sorry, I know you're dying, mister. I know you're dying, lady, but the mayor says no. The AHS said no. Why? I don't know why. Why they think that me giving food is somehow evil or more wicked than them not giving those people necessities of life.
Yeah, and in some cases, condemning people even, right? Like if you're not from Calgary, if you're not from Canada and you're watching this, we have extreme winters, like very, very cold winters where like there are days if you have exposed flesh and you're going outside, it physically hurts. Now, I have the means to clothe myself. There are those that do not, right?
Did you notice the officer, a bylaw officer, being asked a question, how do you know this is a church? You remember that? And I'm thinking, this man knows me for about 15 years.
That's right. Yeah.
And he has been attending probably about 200 events, maybe more, that I put together. And he struggled to answer that simple question. And in the end of the day, he says, well, because it says street church, so it has a church in the name. I'm thinking, oh my God, this is out of this world. I mean, it feels like a show, and a very bad one.
I remember tweeting that, and I was just like, oh goodness, like he no, it's like there's no quality, there's no substance between some of the comments and some of the answers. Like you think it's court and you're, you want to sit on the edge of your seat and you're here to like hear the proceedings and for there to be like an actual decision made. And then you hear someone say, well, how do you know that this is a church? Well, I read the sign and it had the word church in it.
Yeah.
These
and
are,
the crown,
yeah.
and the crown said, help the guy. The crown, well, it had the cross there, right? Yeah. And then you said they were preaching. Yeah, but what's preaching? I mean, it was like surreal.
Yeah.
Here is a Proverbs 29:7. Here is what I believe it's happening. Because the first day I was not sure what is going on with this craziness. We agreed to the facts. The crown said, I'm not interested in this. I'm calling 9 witnesses to something that we agree in the first place. That we agree to this. Yeah. We agree to the facts. Yeah. I was there. There is no need to these 9 witnesses telling that I was there. I was there. I admit I was there. Now let's move to the merits of the case.
And just to confirm, you did admit that you were there. Like this is...
Yeah. And I'm still admitting I was there. I was there. Hey, if you didn't hear, I was there. I fed the poor. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm actually proud that God has blessed me with these enormous resources to be able to feed so many people for so long. Here is what I believe is happening. I believe that this is my punishment. They know they're going to lose this case. There is no way a normal judge in a free and democratic society would convict a person saying that, in fact, a public event was a private just because the government says so. Yeah. So I think they know that. I think they know they have a very weak case. So what they decided to do, they decided to hurt me through the process. Let's make as boring as possible, drag our feet as long as we can. This was 3 days, and still we are not talking about the merits of the case. And the Crown wants 3 additional days. So she's thinking of hurting me financially. She wants to drag me to the court so I would lose another day of work. So that would be 6 days. And she's doing this, and that's my feeling, at the orders of the tyrannical Kenya's government. I believe this is vengeance. This is just pure vengeance. I've embarrassed them on a global scale. I am telling them, you're evil, you're wicked, you should take care of the homeless, not have a whiskey party at the Sky Palace, enjoying your millions of dollars and your ability to do whatever you want, but actually go out there and be a servant of the people. We used to call those individual servants. Who those people are serving? Excuse me, can anyone explain to me who those evil, wicked people are serving right now?
Themselves.
There you go. So Proverbs 29:7 says, a righteous man knows the rights of the poor. What are the rights of the poor? To get necessities of life. I mean, this is the most important thing for them. A shelter, clothes, and food. Because without those 3 things, they're going to die. And the sad part during this hysteria is that I had many homeless coming to me during the time with the names. Remember him? He's dead. Remember her? He froze to death. Remember, they were kicked out from a shelter and they froze under the bridge. I mean, it breaks your heart. Everywhere you hear is, you're a lawbreaker, you're a bad guy, you should shut down, you're super spreader, this and that. Well, first of all, show me one person that got sick because of my activities. Just one. One, please. Anyone? Just one. That what I did actually caused a harm to anyone. There's no harm. There's only good. I'm saving lives. And I'm saving lives on the streets in outdoor settings. While Kenny is in outdoor settings as well, breaking all the regulations and mandates himself. Proverbs 29:7 continues, a wicked man, however, does not understand such a knowledge. A wicked man doesn't care about the poor. A wicked man is rich and enjoys his life and enjoys his power, just like those politicians of today. They enjoy their wealth and their status. They don't have to think about where I'm going to get my next bowl of soup or will my house be heated. What they are telling us, they're telling you, We are in this together, right? You've heard this thousands of times from the mainstream propaganda machinery and from the mouth of the politicians. We are in this together. However, you've lost your jobs and your loved ones maybe died and perished and you could not even go and see them. You did not party at the Sky Palace with the whiskey, with your bodies breaking all the rules and regulations. You've lost your money. You've lost your ability to earn money. And yet at the same time, all those politicians have lost not a dollar. Their paychecks are coming every single month.
Yeah.
Their money has not disappeared, actually increased. Do you know that politicians have awarded themselves bonuses because of this crisis?
Yeah, because of the pandemic. Of course.
Right.
It's one law for me, one law for thee. We've seen this many times.
So they're telling us we're in this together, while at the same time, we've lost everything and they're lost nothing. Their wealth increased during the lockdowns. Our wealth decreased during their actions and their illegal mandates. And now they're turning back and they're saying, you know what? We're going to waste more of your money. Who is paying for the crown? And the government is sparing no expenses to hunt me down for a ticket of feeding the poor, while at the same time, Alberta needs at least 50 more crown prosecutors because their trials are so backed for so many years that real criminals, rapists, murderers, thieves are being let go because there's not enough crown prosecutors to actually go after real criminals. Why? Because they're all stuck, they're fixated on an immigrant that just wants to be left alone. Listen to me, you wicked, evil people. I just want to be left alone. Don't you get it? Since I started to feed the poor and preach the gospel, I just want to be left alone. Leave me be. Do your job, whatever that is, because now you're not even doing your job, and let me do mine. What is my job? Well, I just read it. James 2:14. Faith without works is dead. This is Bible. This is what my God is saying to me. You can talk the nice talk. You can give the best and the most amazing sermons on earth. You can be the most eloquent out of all the speakers. You can be the silver tongue. But God says faith without works is dead.
So if you don't do the work, if you don't put your money where your mouth is, so to speak, then it means nothing,
It
right?
means absolutely nothing. Real Christianity is not fancy words. That's the corrupted politicians' arena. They give you all the things you want to hear. They love you. They murdered your loved ones for your good and for their good. They've locked you up to protect you while you're dying and you're dead. And that all of that was done for your health. You're dead, but that was done for your own benefit. They're giving you heavy drugs. Like I was in prison. Every day they would offer me fentanyl and cocaine. All of that was for my own good. All of that was for my own good. And who pays for it? You. You pay for all of those drugs, heavy drugs. And we are saying this, we're doing this for the benefit of society. And then we're going to kick the inmates out after they serve their sentence, hooked on heavy drugs. What do you think is going to happen when they're out? They're going to try to get what they need because they're hooked on drugs, and they're going to whack your mom's head. They're going to break into your father's garage or car or house, and they're going to turn into a lifestyle of crime. Why? Because the government was helping them. Matthew 25:37. Then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and gave you drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? And the king will answer them, truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers, you did it to me. You see, here is the thing. When I go to the streets and I give a cup of water or a bowl of soup, like we did during the COVID in those very cold times, and the officer was asked about what he observed, and he says it was very cold. It was very cold. Remember that? Very cold. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I would hate to be that officer. I would probably be very sick and would not show up in a court if that was me. You know what I mean? I would just be so sick I would not be able to walk to the court.
Yeah.
I would prefer to lose my pension than to testify against a crime. So we looked at the hundreds of photographs of the crime scene. And it's like,
The crime scene, right?
Right.
The crime scene.
the crime scene.
Yeah, where you're feeding people and, people are merrily enjoying themselves and their lives and, being actual social creatures, which us humans are. Sorry, that is who we are, right? We're social creatures. We learn, we love, we need to be around group environments. That's healing. You know what I mean? That definitely is that, especially when it comes to being around people that are homeless and stuff like that. They already don't have a lot of attention that they get looked away from. I see it a lot. I live downtown in Calgary. So I see that a lot. People are really quick to just turn the other direction because it makes them very uncomfortable.
That's right.
So to be able to house and facilitate an environment where they feel safe, where they feel welcome is very, very important.
It is uncomfortable to see that. And I'm telling you, when I started to work with the homeless people, it was very uncomfortable for me as well. Because what do we know about homelessness? If we have a home, then we know very little.
Yeah.
We know that they are annoying us, right, on the streets. They are begging for money.
That's how we see it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we don't really know them. But when you start to work with them and you're on the streets, you start to hear their stories. I dealt with people, ex-police officers, ex-doctors, ex-multimillionaires, restaurant owners, people that were scientists, smart. Something snapped, something happened. Something in their lives happened and boom, either they were drinking too much because the career, the pressure. Maybe they took a little bit of cocaine here and there and then it went out of control. I remember this guy, his wife left him. And that messed him so much that he blew everything he had. He had house, he had car, he had good job and messed him up, end up on the streets. I remember one day there was a restaurant owner, a multimillionaire. He was walking to murder his partner. He was on the way to murder his partner when he heard me. And he was kind of like shocked. And then he came closer and started to cry and says, "You got no idea. I was on my way to murder this guy because he cheated me out of a deal, and I've heard you speak." We don't know what people go through. We don't know why they are there. Yes, many of them have done terrible things, and them being on the streets, those are the consequences of their own actions. But do you know, I've met 95% of women on the streets are because they were raped violently, or pedophiles got a hold of them when they were kids. And that's their story. It messed them so much that one thing led to another. And now the government says, yeah, but you're not allowed to receive food. And now I am in the middle of this. I am in the middle of the people that I know they desperately need this service. And then the government is telling me, but you cannot do it. What am I to do as a pastor? It's like telling a police officer, your job is to serve and protect. But I'm telling you, when you see someone raping that girl right there, while you are walking the streets, you're not allowed to help her. You're not allowed to interfere. You have to watch the rapist to finish his job. How can he do that? He can't. It's impossible. If he's a real cop, he will lose his job before he will let this continue. And the same with me. I'm willing to lose everything, but I cannot just keep feeding the poor that are hungry. So that's pretty much, that's how simple it is, really. If you think about it, people complicate this whole case. This case has nothing to do with was it private or public. No, this case is about the government that wants to be God. The government, the tyrannical government that is telling me I should worship them and obey them before I worship God and obey God. That's what the whole thing is all about. If you're looking at the federal government, the mandates, the regulations, the laws, when you look at the provincial and the municipal, that's what the whole thing is all about. Mm-hmm. They say something. You're not allowed to challenge them. You're not allowed to fact check them. Yeah. They are allowed to fact check you. Yeah. And of course, it's all baloney, it's all garbage. But you're not allowed to say, hey, let's follow the science. Let's do it. I want to follow the science. Let's
Well,
do
it changes all the time, right? So it's kind of hard to follow that.
So now I've challenged them. I said, I want to challenge your science. Boom, I got deplatformed or censored, or my video was kicked out. Then I said, okay, let's follow biology. Now the latest is, I don't know if you know, but I can have children. So it's very interesting thing that we are actually not following biology. We're not following physics. We're not following science. We're not following real doctors, biology. All of those things are out the window.
It's just a narrative. Like, and then I don't understand where they find the time to come up with these stories to tell and then to invest time and money into projecting them on the public and to, I think of other people even as victims at this point when it comes to some of the things that they believe.
You know, look, I know, don't comment. I know. I feel like I'm pregnant. I mean, I don't like it. It's unnatural for me, but I feel like I'm pregnant. So now who do you think you are to say that I'm not? That's biology.
Yeah, that's the science. Yeah.
You know, so anyway, we're a little bit joking here in the end. But in the end of the day, remember, what I do affects people's lives.
Yeah.
This is not a game. We're not playing a game on the streets with the homeless. Maybe the government does, maybe the shelters do, but I don't. For me, it's life and death. Those people are in minus 30, 40. Why? Why do you think they don't go to the shelters? But yet they prefer to come to me, stand in the minus, in the lineups. Why do you think is that? Because what happens behind the closed doors, it's another story. Yeah. Those people are terrified of the abuse of power. They don't want to go there. They're terrified. They're afraid. And they want to come to me because they feel safe. They feel that I'm actually going to listen to them and I'm going to actually help them. That's why the lineups are growing. They're not getting smaller. They're getting bigger every week and bigger and bigger. And the government is not assisting the needs of the poor. So when they see someone that does and someone that is successful, the reflection on them is not good. So instead of rewarding us and saying thank you for assisting our citizens, they prefer the harmer and waste more and more resources and more money. So I think this is the saddest part of the story, that here is a government, the government that should reward people that do good. And yet this government, the Kenny's government, the so-called conservative government, is punishing those that do their best to save lives.
Yeah. And that, I don't even know what else we could even go into at this point, just because it's like you said, it's very simple. It doesn't have anything to do with being complicated. When you really bring it down to the most basic form of what it is, it's literally a man, a pastor, Artur Pawlowski, doing his job and acting as a pastor and being able to facilitate a safe space for people whose government is not even able to do that for them. So, thank you. Oh, yeah.
Well, we've got, because this is not over.
Yeah.
You know that the Crown asks for 3 more days.
Yes.
We know that those 3 days could be a month from now, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months.
And I heard on the 22nd, that's when we're going to get the next date to your court hearing, right?
Which could be half a year from now. So swift justice. We're talking about 2 years already in the ringer with $100,000 worth ticket. If they want to go to the fullest of the law, it's $100,000 ticket.
That's right.
And for what, right? For what? The Crown prosecutor was more eager to talk to people about the propane tanks and asking who are those people with Santa hats.
The Santa hats and all the pictures of steak that the one officer was, because she was curious about the volume of food that was there.
Yeah. And then was the Christmas tree real or fake?
Authentic or not. Yeah, that's right. I remember
Very
quoting that. I was
important
just...
thing. Very important to know if the Christmas tree was real or fake.
Even the color of the sound system I know is blue now. Did you know it's blue?
You see?
The audience knows it's blue now.
And it's very interesting because the officer under oath testified that I set up the speakers and it's mine. And actually, it's not. She did not even observe. She says her job was to gather evidence and to observe me.
Yeah.
And yet she didn't know if I was even speaking at the event.
Yeah.
Is that not like,
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God, you can't make this stuff up.
No.
You just can't.
It's
Here-
heinous. Yeah.
Here is an officer that their entire job was to observe what was going on and gather evidence. And yet she was not even aware if I was speaking at the rally or not.
That's right. So, if you were not following the live tweets from Sheila and myself for day 2 and 3, we did find out that these police officers were all a part of a public health safety unit that was actually also put together very conveniently at the time of the COVID-19 restrictions and when Pastor Artur took to the streets to be able to facilitate being able to feed the homeless and whatnot. So they're all a part of the same group, and their jobs are literally to be able to gather information openly, and remove the anonymity behind what they're doing, meaning taking photos and videos in the open and not trying to hide it, when a lot of these officers as well, as they testified, revealed that majority of these photos that they were actually going through were all taken from a hidden perspective up on the 3rd floor in the old City Hall building, which has been reconstructed at this point. But that's not overtly. That's not out in the open. That's behind the scenes. They're not, I know some of them were, but a lot of them were actually not there to be able to really, it's just like the way that we do journalism. We are out on the streets, boots on the ground, actually talking to people face to face to get that story. Mainstream media, just like they like to do, is to separate themselves from the crowd and cast a different angle on the story, to cast whatever perspective and narrative that they wish to do.
One last thing. Remember the female officer from the Bible services? She was asked about me. Yeah. And then she gives this rant how awful of an individual, yelling, screaming, calling her names.
She said she felt very emotionally abused by you. That was the quote I took.
And threatened. Yes. And then when the question was, did you actually talk to Artur Pawlowski? She says, no. I mean, it's like, seriously, you're under oath, lady. You swore. And another sad thing during this trial was when majority of the people would decide to swear on the Bible, but unfortunately
they didn't have a Bible.
The Bible was not there. So next time I'm going to bring few copies of the Bible, see if the Crown will accept that, because we're swearing on the Bible, but the Bible is not there. Why? Because it got legs.
The wheels of justice squeak and grind and they do not turn. That is why. I remember tweeting this. Yes, it seemed insane to me that you could choose how to swear the oath, and they all chose to swear on the Bible. Yeah. There was no Bible. No. Not on day 2, not on day 3, and I'm going to make an assumption, not on day 1 either.
No, of course not. So I'm thinking to myself, maybe it's symbolic. Maybe God left the building. Maybe God just left the justice system because there's no justice anymore. So, I pray and I hope that justice one day will be served. In the end of the day, we all have to remember that God is judge of judges. Yeah. And in the end of the day, the truth and justice will be served. And he is a judge that does not take any bribes. He knows it all. And he's just.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you have it, folks. We got the insider scoop from Pastor Artur Pawlowski. We will hear about when the next court date is going to be. Again, next thing we know, that'll be on the 22nd of this month. And then from there, who knows how long it's going to be. But as always, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and have a conversation and to be able to show the viewers what is going on and to be able to talk a little bit more in depth about yourself and why this means so much to you. And thank you for tuning in. For Rebel News, I'm Celine Gallus. If you'd like to make a donation to help Pastor Artur Pawlowski, you can go to saveartur.com to receive your tax-eligible receipt from the Democracy Fund. The costs are sure to pile up, so make sure that you go and you visit that today to help show your support.